Scenes and stories of devastation are endlessly flashing across news and social media feeds, from the September 11th attacks to the countless shootings on campuses to the Boston Marathon bombings. Disasters are the great equalizer. No one is spared, including the University of Wisconsin-Madison. UW-Madison has experienced crisis in the past, including the August 24, 1970 Sterling Hall bombing, which killed one person. But the university is committed to maintaining a safe and resilient campus through continuously training personnel and testing response and recovery capabilities through emergency exercises. This commitment to being prepared for the next disaster is witnessed in the planning efforts put forward with Operation Wisconsin Dawn, a series of 4 tabletop exercises, a functional exercise, and a full-scale exercise in July 2014. The historic task began in April 2013. More than 19 different agencies participated in the planning. The scope of the full-scale exercise was exhausting. Operation Wisconsin Dawn was the largest emergency exercise in Wisconsin history by most measures, including the number of individuals involved and the complexity of the organizational structure. Here is the story of what transpired on July 17, 2014.
7 a.m. The summer morning began like any other at UW-Madison with activities and events across campus. Community members, students, and staff were at Camp Randall Stadium getting ready to run the 5K and 10K Community Fun Run, Wisconsin Dawn. The festive atmosphere ended in a flash.
Is anybody injured? Dispatch all districts, Camp Randall, 1440 Monroe Street for an explosion. The Gate 2 area, approximately 54 injured. No further at this point.
A flood of 911 phone calls swept into the UW Police Department and Dane County 911 dispatch centers. Frantic individuals reporting an explosion at Camp Randall. Injured people were everywhere. Initial responders from UW Police Department and the student EMT group, the first responders, ran to the scene and quickly established an incident command post. The scene that greeted them was surreal. A thick cloud of white smoke hung in the air, the injured blindly navigating their way through a debris field. Calls for help echoing off the monolith that is Camp Randall Stadium. Motionless bodies bearing silent witness. The City of Madison Fire Department arrived moments later and immediately began search and rescue efforts through the debris field. Victim volunteers were transported to University of Wisconsin Hospital, Meriter Hospital, and the VA Hospital for treatment. Minutes later, the UW-Madison Police Department manager on call arrived on scene. It was chaos. Victims were scattered across the parking lot and lawn, some with serious injuries, many with minor wounds, and a few experiencing their last moments alive. Each one a witness to a potential crime, each one with a story to tell. UW-PD kept reporters up to date with how the events of the situation were unfolding. The flow of information was rapid but incomplete. Many questions remained unanswered. What caused the explosion? How many victims are there? Is this a terrorist attack? Will there be more?
And of course, the 1400 block of Monroe Street is closed as well because of this incident, but that's inside this perimeter.
These events triggered an activation of the University of Wisconsin-Madison's University Response Plan and Emergency Operations Center, or EOC. Campus leaders were alerted of the activation and asked to go to the designated location to assist with the crisis. A unified command post was established at the scene between UW-PD and Madison Fire to ensure a coordinated response. The mass casualty trailer arrived on scene. 15 minutes later, the Madison Fire Department was in full operation, triaging, treating, and transporting at least 75 victims to local hospitals for further treatment. An operations group was established to manage the on-scene response operations. The unified commanders from UW-PD, Madison Fire, Madison Police, Dane County Sheriff, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office moved to a nearby building which allowed them to oversee all response activity, including on-scene operations and the EOC. While the UW-Madison EOC operated at the Cole Center under minimal staffing, concerned citizens and parents started calling into the UW-PD Dispatch Center.
I was at the race, and I just remember seeing this black backpack. It didn't have any logos or anything like that. But I just remember thinking it looked really suspicious, and there like a big square object in it.
I saw a man leaving the area right before the explosion. He looked weird. He was wearing a winter coat and had black glasses.
So I saw two suspicious men, and they were carrying black bags.
The Red Cross was called upon, and a family reunification center and family assistance center was established at Went Library to assist worried staff and family members. The Red Cross counseled anyone who arrived for their services. Meanwhile, the Salvation Army was called upon and quickly set up a station to feed the first responders. While the Madison Fire Department, UW Police Department, and Madison Police Department combed through the debris field, the UW-Madison EOC began operating with full staffing. Members were briefed by the EOC manager and designated responsibilities within their assigned groups. Groups involved were the planning group, responsible for coordinating EOC planning operations, the logistics group, in charge of ordering and supporting additional resources and personnel, the Information Management Group, which coordinated the Joint Information Center, responsible for the public information efforts, the Finance and Administration Group, responsible for tracking the financial impact to the university, and the Liaison Group, who provided coordination efforts to outside agencies and groups. The Executive Group, comprised of campus executives, including the Chancellor, Provost, Vice Chancellors, Directors, and Deans, convened in Bascom Hall. Their only focus was on the well-being of the campus community, making sure they provided policy-level guidance and support to the EOC and on-scene personnel. Since 2010's Badger 1 full-scale exercise, UW-PD has employed technologies such as eSponder, Skype, web conferencing, and live camera feeds to make communication and information sharing between locations and agencies faster and smoother.
Platforms like eSponder let us keep in communications with groups in different areas. It seems to cut down on the game of you need what, where, and I can't even imagine what's going to be around in 4 or 5 years down the road.
At the crisis scene, Explosion Ordnance Disposal, or EOD, swept Camp Randall, the Shell, and Fieldhouse looking for secondary explosive devices. History has proven a troubling assumption. When there is one bomb, there's usually another. The Joint Information Center, established at Engineering Hall, held their first news conference.
We are shocked and deeply saddened by this horrific attack, and our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and all of the loved ones at this very difficult time.
This is a white adult male, 21 years old.
Meanwhile, the medical examiner's office and FBI evidence response team entered the bombing area to begin the tasks of identifying the deceased and the collection of evidence. From the numerous bodies waiting for attention to the smallest piece of debris, the tasks in front of these teams were monumental. Minutes later, bomb threats were reported at other locations around campus, adding to the confusion and chaos. A second bomb was found in the fieldhouse by a UW-PD K-9 unit. It confirmed the worst fears of the commanders. The bombing at Camp Randall was not a lone event. What else lay in store for the university? The full Madison Police Department SWAT team convened on scene, ready to interdict any further threats. If the perpetrators returned to the scene, they would be waiting for them. The executive group made a hard but needed decision. The campus was put under a shelter-in-place order, and the EOC was told to prepare for the evacuation of campus. The university is a city within a city. Evacuation is no easy task, but the EOC proved up to the challenge and quickly put together a plan. Investigators discovered video of the first bomb being planted and obtained descriptions of the suspects. Video security camera footage was provided to the investigation group. Following a tip phoned in to the tip line, a vehicle belonging to one of the suspects was found in Lot 18 near Camp Randall Stadium. The vehicle registration information was also provided to the investigation group. A picture was beginning to form, and it was ugly. The explosion was no mistake. It was deliberate. The response to the incident required a full court press, and the FBI special agent in charge knew this. He ordered the establishment of a joint operations center and requested deployment of FEMA Region 5's emergency response team to help manage the federal response. The investigators reached out to the public for help, asking for any videos that may show suspicious activity. The suspects were identified as 24-year-old Jeff Green and 25-year-old Mark Holmes. They looked like any other young college-age students, but the investigators knew they were somehow involved, and we're going to find out how. Search warrants were executed at the suspects' homes in Madison. Dane County EOD and SWAT arrived and discovered bomb-making materials and a partially constructed bomb in the residence. All evidence points to Green and Holmes as the masterminds to the devastation. But where are they?
Our investigators in the FBI believe could lead to valuable information associated with the explosion at Camp Randall this morning.
The Joint Information Center held a second news conference to discuss the new findings. UW-EOC began planning for multiple operational periods, knowing that the response will take weeks, if not months. UW-Madison and Madison police got the break they needed. They discovered footage of the suspects entering Camp Randall Sports Center earlier in the day, at which point the FBI tactical team made its entry into the Camp Randall Sports Center. They cornered the suspects and engaged them. One suspect was killed, the other wounded. Suspicious material, possibly another bomb, was recovered with the suspects. This confirmed early fears that their plan didn't end with the first bombing or the second device. The Dane County Bomb Squad was requested to deal with the material.
Some of the wounded were severely injured. There was loss of limbs, obviously loss of life.
A third Joint Information Center news conference was held, and Dane County Bomb Squad was deployed to Camp Randall Sports Center to neutralize the bomb. Meanwhile, all victims were removed from the incident site. The area hospitals notified the families of the injured, and the Dane County Medical Examiner made final death notifications. A sobering moment for everyone involved.
The exercise ended with debrief sessions called hot washes for all involved. Lessons learned were discussed, along with what went well and what could have gone better. Interviews were conducted with key players in the exercise to gain immediate feedback. In the days following the exercise, more meetings were held to discuss how Operation Wisconsin Dawn went. All groups had a chance to talk about their experiences, as well as hear from others. Overall, 19 agencies and over 600 participants, including 104 voluntary victims, were involved in the operation. The entire process took more than 14 months, involving 4 tabletop exercises, a functional exercise, and more than 65 planning meetings. It was partially funded by a grant from the Federal Department of Homeland Security and Wisconsin Emergency Management.
First, I want to thank all of the agencies that participated in Operation Wisconsin Dawn. It showed just how strong our partnerships are and our ability to work together when the stress is actually applied. Functional and full-scale tabletop exercises are all important. And they're important because planning, while critical, isn't really the measure of whether you're truly ready to face an emergency. It isn't until you exercise, till you push yourself and add stress to the environment, that you'll know whether your plans will actually work if given a real emergency. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has always been dedicated to a strong emergency management program and a strong emergency management series of exercises, and that will continue. I want to thank everybody who was involved in this exercise, from all of the University of Wisconsin administrators through all of our partners. It's critically important that we test ourselves in advance of a true emergency, and that we come out knowing, as we did in Operation Wisconsin Dawn, that we can be successful when the crisis arises and our real credibility is on the line.